What's up guys, it's Steven here from Cymatics and welcome to day 5 of the beat making challenge. Today we're going to be talking all about 808s and I know you guys have been waiting for this one. Alright, so a few things I think are very important from the previous days of the challenge that's really going to help with today's video is one is like the reference tracks you've been listening to. You should be starting to get a good ear for what a great 808 should sound like on the set of speakers that you're using. So if you've been listening to your reference tracks a lot, you should understand how a good 808 sample should sound like on the set of speakers that you're using. And that's going to become very important because one of the most important things, as you'll see in this video, is sample selection. Like you don't want to take an 808 that doesn't fit right with the track and try and just spend all day doctoring it up, trying to get it to sound perfect. Something that's a lot easier for producers as well as more efficient is actually trying to have good sample selection right off the rip so you're not trying to fight an uphill battle. Not to mention we're going to have a lot of great stuff in this video on how to make your kick sound great with the track as well and some different techniques to really spice up your 808s. A few things to note real quick. At the end of the video I'm going to give you a couple exercises that you guys can practice on your own. The other thing is if you haven't gotten the sample resources for the 7-day beat making challenge, there is a link in the description. And the last thing is, even if you don't use Ableton, I'm personally an FL Studio user and there's a lot of great stuff in this video. It's very easy because a lot of this information in this video is actually translatable to every single DAW. So don't be discouraged only because you're using a different DAW or a different piece of software because there's still a lot to learn. Anyways, I hope you guys enjoyed this video. Peace out.
Hey guys, this is Nick with Cymatics.fm. Welcome to day number 5 of our 7-day beat making challenge. Today we're going to be covering a very important part of making a modern hip hop song, which is the 808. I'm going to teach you guys how to get the 808 to sound good underneath the melody. I'm going to teach you guys how to make the 808 sound good with a kick drum and how to put everything together and make it sound already kind of more like a song. By now you know how to put together a drum beat, as I taught you guys in the last video. I used all those techniques to make this kind of clubby sort of thing with the melody. Alright, now we're going to write the 808. So without further ado, let's not waste any time. I'm going to teach you guys how to get it to sound, or how to get the notes right, the melody of the 808. Again, we're going to arm it or make it playable with the keyboard. Now which 808 sample should we be using? Which is the first kind of question we should be asking. In this particular case, generally the rule of thumb is if your snares and claps are far apart from each other, meaning that if your tempo is something like 150, 160, 145 BPM and stuff like that, your snares and claps will be pretty far apart. You want a longer 808 for that. In this case, ironically, it's a lower tempo, but the claps are very close together. It's a very clubby, it's a very kind of quick rhythm. You want to dance to it, right? So here a short 808 would work really well because we can play it multiple times. And it's not going to just be a low rumbling sub the entire song. It's going to be a short acting rhythmic pumping 808. So that's what we should be looking for. And I just found one in this folder. That's what I wanted, something distorted. And distorted 808s like this can be good for a song. They could also be bad for a song. In this case, I want it to be nice and loud and cut through the melody easily. Alright, now the next step, you put your 808 into a higher octave and use this higher octave not to actually write the 808 for the final song, but to just figure out which notes are the best ones. Because again, it's too hard to do when it's low pitch, and especially if you don't have the best speakers or the best headphones, you might not be able to hear the notes clearly. And now we just play around with the notes to find the moment where the 808 and the melody match completely in the pitch. We're going to go chord by chord. So first chord. It's wrong. That's one candidate, but I think there's better. There we go. That's the one. It's the note F sharp, yeah, so we're just going to put the F sharp here. We're going to put that in the higher octave still. It's just fine. And we're going to drop the entire thing once we're done writing the full melody. Let me just take a tuner here real quick and make sure you can use the tuner, the melody tuner from the last video. I just want to make sure that we are completely in tune. Let me drop this down an octave. So that is a G, but it's pretty flat. So it's about shows up at the very end, minus 24 cents flat. We'll bring it up plus 24. This is something you should do when you feel like the note of your 808 is in between sort of two notes. That means it's either flat or sharp, and you should bring it in line. There we go. Now that sounds reasonable. Right, if we bring that up. That's wrong. That's right. Cool. And we're just going to do this for each chord. These are all the same chord. That's also the same chord. And then it changes at the end here. So we can actually use this little bit as a hint of what our 808 should be. We're just going to copy that the same way. And let's find a note which works. I just did it first try. That's alright, and then this is the right one. And the next one is lower. Probably by 1, but we can try by 2 first. It's wrong. Yeah, that's the right one. Let's try putting it up another octave. See, now I can hear it very clearly that that's the correct melody. And we'll just repeat that. Okay, so let's transpose all of this down 2 octaves back to its original pitch. So that's step 1 out of the way. Now step 2, let's write a cool rhythm with it. And since we have the melody laid out and the basic kind of fundamental structure of each chord laid out in the 808, we can play with the rhythms here. Usually I try to shorten the first note and kind of duplicate it a few times. See how it sounds if I just do that. Right, so I kind of have some ideas now. You can even try to do this kind of stuff. That's what I'm going to do. Right, and let's just duplicate that over. Yeah, and a cool trick I can teach you guys is how to do 808 slides. Now, in Ableton Live, it's pretty easy. You just go into here, select glide. Every sampler in the world has a glide feature, and set the time to something high, set the time to something like 150, 160. And very importantly, you need to set the voices to one voice or mono, and that'll give you this gliding effect, which we're going to use at the end of this phrase to sort of match the gliding effect in the sample here. You can hear that doo-doo, and we're going to sort of replicate that in the 808 here. But I'm going to do that in a slightly fancier way in terms of the rhythm. I don't want it to be repeating exactly. And we're going to just shorten this and put this on the downbeat, like here. And the slide note, I'm going to be using a low note. Usually it's nice to use a very low note because the slide is more audible. So let's hear how that sounds. There we go. And the key here is to change the time of the slide to sort of fit the groove of the song. And don't use slides too often because it's going to be very annoying to the ear. The ear likes nice stable pitches. So if you're sliding all over the place, especially when it's a bass, which is meant to be supporting, it's like the foundation of your entire house, you can't have that sliding around. You want it nice and stable, and occasionally use the slide to make some notes sound more, make some transitions between the notes sound nicer. If I did this without a slide, it would sound a bit too punchy. Like if I made a B here. It sounds fine too, but it sounds more interesting when you have a slide here. And it's less of a, it doesn't punch you in the face as much. You can still hear the pitch of that last note, but you don't hear it punch through the speakers a third time in a row like this. Dun, dun, dun. It's a bit much. That's a bit nice, but I'd rather it be more aggressive. So I'm going to put it down. There we go. And it kind of gives you this roller coaster drop sensation going into the next loop, the next repetition. So here I'm just going to repeat this. Cool. So that's the 808 covered. I mean, another cool little thing I can teach you guys is to use saturation to bring out the frequencies, the high frequencies of your 808, make it a bit more aggressive sounding, but also let the 808 punch through easier on older or smaller speakers, like laptop speakers. If that's something you're going for, if you want your song to sound good on all systems, you might want to consider this. I personally don't think it's that big of a deal nowadays, so everybody has decent equipment, but it's still something to consider. And I usually use something like the saturator in Ableton Live, drop the output of it because it's going to go pretty high, and just bring up the drive a bit. And all these saturators tend to have some kind of algorithms here, so we're going to try something like, let's try analog clip, that's fine. Since we dropped the output, it's going to be quiet, but we're going to put the drive up. So that right away brings out some of that high-end energy in the kick, and then we'll bring up the output back to where it was before. And if you listen before, it's also fine. So it's really up to taste. I like to have not too much. That's a perfect amount. All right, finally, we need to add the kick. And having a kick that fits well, let me delete all this stuff so I can do it from the beginning. Finding the right kick is it's something that you just develop with time, develop with practice. I know it frustrates a lot of producers to get a kick drum that sits well with the 808 and that punches through the 808, but then also can stand on its own and doesn't sound wacky on its own. It's a very difficult thing to achieve. There's no real rule you can follow. It's all about trial and error, trying different samples together, and kind of having an ear for, or developing an ear for which kick drum will sound good with which 808. You can have a folder, name it kick 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, and then have another folder of 808s, 808, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. And 1 will sound good with 1, 2 will sound good with 2. So you can develop your folders that way so you don't have to worry or think about it. But if you don't have that kind of a library yet, I'm going to teach you guys a generally simple way of getting a kick to sound good. So you want a boxy style, kind of like a boxy distorted kick. Let's try to find one here. Like something like that catches my ear. And after making a lot of beats, I kind of hear that this is going to punch through the 808 properly. This won't. This will. This won't. It's too bloated and fat. This actually will. It's a short, boxy kick. That's what we're looking for. Nothing too distorted. That's almost there, but doesn't have enough energy. That's also a good candidate. So I'm just trying to show you guys kind of a palette of kick drums. If you have a massive folder of these things, what to be looking for. Let's try to throw that in. And I'm going to copy this melody and just put it on my kick. All of our notes have to be the same. So we're going to bring up all the pitches. And we can play with the rhythm, but for now, we don't care about the rhythm of the kick. We want the kick to sound good with the 808. So we're going to bring it back to C3, which is the native pitch of the sample. And let's just hear how that sounds. That's pretty close. So now we can throw in a few kicks that are going to happen on their own without the 808 under them. So that doesn't sound that good. What usually sounds good is right before the end of the phrase. You can kind of add a little parting shot. Kind of like that. And then at the beginning of the phrase, you can kind of have a... And it sounds really cool when you have the 808s and the kicks kind of happening in between one another, but do that sparingly, like in this example. Once you have a kick that punches through the 808 without much effort, that's really the goal when it comes to searching through the samples, is you want to find a kick that punches through. Like, why do we find a punchy kick with a kind of a boxy, distorted sound? Is so that it punches through the 808 without doing anything to it. Because I want to find an 808 that just already fits without any EQ or compression. Because when we add EQ and compression to that kick, it's going to sound really good, right? We want to find something that sounds good off the bat and then embellish it. I love these kinds of kicks. That's what I really enjoy. They always work for me. Now, we want this to be louder. We want it to punch through the 808, but how do I do it? Because if I increase the volume of my kick like this, I'm going to start clipping. It's going to sound bad. Well, the secret, guys, the secret sauce here is the soft clipping feature of your DAW. Usually you're going to have some basic soft clipper. In live, we're going to use the glue compressor. It has a very decent soft clipper in it. This is something you're not going to be overusing because it's something that will give us a sound, but also give us it'll help us in a mix. Soft clipping in hip hop music is kind of like sidechaining in EDM. It's the same thing, roughly speaking. It's the same effect that it brings about in terms of the mix. Your kick will come through louder, and what it does is it basically just trades the loudness for distortion. But the good thing is that when we distort this kick with a soft clipper, that distortion that usually sounds pretty good in a hip hop song. So that's what we're just gonna try and boost this. See, if we go too loud, it's loud, but it's not feasible because it's just kind of a flat mess. We want to make sure it's loud enough that it cuts through the mix, but not so loud and that it's so distorted that it loses all of its energy. I know it's a very intoxicating feeling, especially if you didn't know about this before, to just go like 1,000,000 dB into the soft clipper, but bring it back. You know, go 1,000,000 dB, find the place where it's too distorted, and then bring it back a few dB. Like, you don't have to go insane with it. But this is like the power, you know, you have the power now to make really crazy sounding mixes. It's actually, and it was pretty simple all along, it's just soft clipping, but you know, use it wisely. With great power, you have a great responsibility to sound good. Now that's starting to sound like a trap song, am I right? I think I'm right. Another thing that's very important to try out, and it's another secret thing, not a lot of people do, but if you're struggling with your kicks, if you're struggling specifically with like the kicks just like falling out randomly underneath the 808, try transposing them. And since we have the keyboard open, we can just move it around. And find the note where most of the notes of your 808 are stable. Usually I transpose it up because I want a kick that's going to be cutting through. Right? We put it up from C3. It's a bit pillowy and bottom heavy. Sounds the best to me on D sharp. And when you have it like that, when you have all these factors working together in such a way where the samples, the clipping, the melody, and everything is working together, you're going to get a louder, higher energy result all the time. If you have all the stuff that's completely out of whack, your drums are not in sync, and your 808 and kick are just wrong for the song, you're never going to get a loud, high energy mix. Because I can put this up now 20 dB, or maybe not 20. But 15 or whatever, it'll still sound reasonable. It'll sound crazy aggressive, but that's only because I picked the right sample for the 808. You want to have the freedom to go do crazy things and insane things in the mix. And you get that freedom by using high quality samples and paying attention to the sound. When you put all those sounds together, paying attention how they play together. If they're already wrong, if they don't sound good together off the bat, don't try and fix them. Just find something new, and you'll find much better samples, and you'll get much louder mixes as a result. And that's basically it. I hope you guys learned something about writing an 808. I gave you guys a lot of secret sauce on how to get the kick to sound loud. It's really not that secret, but that's how you do it. You use soft clipping. I taught you guys how to make the notes correct on the 808, and this kind of format will apply to basically any hip-hop song you make. So hope you guys learned something and enjoy the video. I'll see you guys in the next one. Bye-bye.
All right, so now that you have watched that entire video, the homework assignments is going to be to add 808s to the tracks you have been working on. If you downloaded the resources and you did the basic drums video, you did the hi-hats video, now it's time to add 808s to all those tracks. Take all the different resources you have and I want you to make 10 tracks, and on those 10 tracks, I want you to now add the 808s. And if you're having trouble getting your 808s in key, which is something a lot of beginners actually struggle with, I suggest you go back to day 2 of this challenge and watch the how to find the key and the root note of a melody loop, so that way you can make sure and get it into key. Anyways, I hope you guys got a lot out of this video and get ready for day 6. Peace.